So, Dark Side of the Ring Part 3. I'll give a brief synopsis of Part 1 and 2 since I've already done those, but for some reason my sound got turned off so you couldn't hear it. So a brief synopsis of Part 1 and 2. This is Jeff Jarrett versus you could basically call it Jeff Jarrett versus Dixie Carter. Not what's called, but you could basically call it that. It's called Jeff Jarrett and the Battle for TNA. The first part's the Dark Side of the Ring episode. There's 3 parts. The first part basically going to Jeff's. Oh yeah, absolutely. It was him in WB and the founding of TNA with his dad and another man that I forgot the name of. He wasn't mentioned in the show. I just know there was another guy who founded TNA. He actually came up with the wiki pay-per-view model that TNA had back when it first started. But I don't remember the name, and I don't feel like you're gonna pop on camera. But that was another guy who founded TNA. Didn't know that, and he came up with the concept of the wiki pay-per-view model. So it talks about Jeff Jarrett's time in TNA, Owen Hart's death, how Jeff Jarrett wasn't very happy with the spot. So it's interesting that TNA was founded. This is the way he's thinking about it. After Vince McMahon bought WCW, and he had a monopoly in the wrestling world there for at least a few years there. Not as young as you would think, but he had a monopoly for at least a few years of the wrestling world. And Jeff Jarrett on camera saying, hey, I knew that if Vince McMahon had a monopoly, it wouldn't be good for the boys, it wouldn't be good for him, and it wouldn't be good for the wider wrestling world in general. So then, and I don't know if this, which it's interesting to ask, because I don't know if this would happen regardless, because you had ECW, it's not like you didn't have promotions being founded outside of WCW and WWF at the time. So it's interesting, but I don't know if TNA would have got founded if Vince McMahon hadn't bought WCW and had a monopoly for a few years. Sorry about that. You had some personal tragedies and Jeff Jarrett. You have professional triumph too, but you had some personal tragedies with his first wife. Jill was the name, which is funny. I met a woman named Jill yesterday. She was really sweet. So Jill, if you see this, you're really sweet. But her name was Jill. She had cancer. It came up in the 90s, but she beat it, and it came back only more aggressively. So aggressively, in fact, to the point that they knew they were going to use her. She knew she was going to die. So that was heartbreaking, as you can imagine. I mean, I'm just watching it. They lived through it. They interviewed Jeff's husband and some of Jeff's colleagues and Jeff and Jill's friends, so that was heartbreaking to watch. but it was good also because I'm younger too. Well, as a pastor, I kind of have to be like this. I tend to look for silver linings in things. Like I tend to act why not instead of why. Yeah, and we'll get into Jeff Jarrett's philosophy about that in a little bit. But when Jill dies, the day that Jill dies, Jeff goes down to the marina. Jeff goes down the dock. I guess I have a dock somewhere close by. So Jeff goes down the dock to kiss head. And he looks down at his watch. I guess it's one of those watches that you have the date on it. So he looked down at his watch. And it's May 23rd. Well, May 23rd, 1999 is the same day that Owen Hart died. And Jeff Jarrett said then, well, I knew somehow, some way, it was all going to be okay. I mean, that Owen was still kind of looking out for me. So that was nice. That was nice to see. Even in the midst of tragedy, you could still look on the bright side, so to speak. Not to say it wasn't sad about it anymore, it was, but just that was touching to see. From there, we get into this is a little further back, but I was just mentioning that. We get that TNA goes into, I'll say bankruptcy. TNA is, which is funny to think about, knowing the history of TNA now and how long it's been around. But TNA was almost dead before it got started. A few minutes before they were supposed to go on pay-per-view, the ring got put back together because the ring actually broke before they were supposed to go on pay-per-view. So if that's not a metaphor for the story of TNA, I can't think of a better one. They get in business with a company called Health South. That's Health South. They get into business with them. Well, it turned out that wasn't very well. Initially, that may have been a good idea because they hired Dixie Carter from that probably, but that turned out not to be the best idea because I think it's a few weeks later or a number of weeks later, I forget which, but sometime later, the CEO of Health House is found. Well, he's not found guilty, which is funny enough in itself to think about. But he's a yet defraud, a yet defrauding, a yet of cooking the book, so to speak, writing down, just misappropriating the money. But he's not found guilty of that. But even so, the managers of Health, they call Jeff, and they ask Jeff, he's got, the CEO has the honor of his mind, so we're gonna pull the funding. We're gonna not fund you anymore, because we have bigger things to deal with. So it turns out they sold the previous night. That's not going to be funded. Jeff Jarrett knows it's kind of like a sink and sip. Jeff Jarrett goes to his contractor, to his business investors, and says, hey, the money's gone, the money's not coming. I'm gonna go try and find some more. But if you want to get off the sink and sip, that's fine. As things would have it, Jeff Jarrett arrives on a young woman named Dixie Carter. This Dixie Carter is an investor at the time. I'm pretty sure anyway. Is an investor at the time with TNA, and Jeff gives her his spiel. We like, if you want to get off and think and see if I understand, it's okay. But Dixie says, I think you need to go talk to my parents. I think you need to go talk to my mom and dad. Because Jeff didn't know. Which is weird to think about. Jeff didn't know anything about her parents. I guess Dixie just kept it hush. And they might have invested eventually, but here they really needed to invest. So Jeff and Jerry fly down. They fly down to meet with Bob. Carter. I think their names are Bob and I think. Oh no, I don't remember what his wife's name was. I was gonna say Yinda, but that's Vince's wife. I don't know what her name is. It may be Yinda too. I don't know. But anyway, so young Jury Sword, they pitch TNA to Bob up there. They can do some business, and they give over a yard to where TNA's thriving in 2005. It's thriving on Spike, which right before they got on Spike is when Monday Night Raw got taken off of Spike and moved back to USA. So that was a big get for them. So you had TNA was doing real good for a while there. I mean, it wasn't in danger. It wasn't in reach of overtaking WB or anything, but it was a healthy alternative with the odd of stars like AJ Styles, Christian, Jeff Hardy, and all those. Going to 2006, Kurt Angle gets released from WB for drug problems, and TNA snatches Jeff Jarrett goes to bat for Kurt Angle with Bob Carter, and pitches Kurt Angle with an Olympic wrestling machine. If you want total non-stop action, Kurt Angle personifies total non-stop action. So with that's which is great because Kurt Angle, because I may not be a fan of TNA today, which I'm not as big of a fan as I was back in the day, back when I started watching it. But I may not be a fan of TNA today if it weren't for Kurt Angle, because I was privy to watch Kurt Angle's retirement tour in TNA, which was great. But that actually wasn't my first exposure to TNA. Me and my family went me and my family went to a TV taping of TNA in 2009 or 2010. I don't remember the date, but I remember Hulk Hogan and Jeff Hardy was on there. It was Jeff Hardy's. Here's something. It was Jeff Hardy's, or it was Hulk Hogan and Appreciation Night. I'm pretty sure it was called Hulk Hogan and Appreciation Night. So we were there, and it was a good experience from what I remember. I got a TNA towel. They threw out the TNA towels. I don't remember if I still have it, but I got a TNA towel. It wasn't called TNA anymore then. It's called Impact. So we went there. That was good. But also, I guess I was just flipping through the channels one day and saw TNA in 2017 and saw the retirement tour. It wasn't the retirement tour that night, but it was a recap episode. This was near the end of 2016 probably, where Impact at the time did the recap episode. So I got on the recap episode that day to watching because I noticed, Kurt Angle was here. So I stayed watching. I witnessed the Buzz Broken Universe. I witnessed TNA Kurt Angle's retirement tour. It was great. AJ Styles are already gone. AJ Styles are already gone to WB at that point, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, if it was 2016, if it was near the end of 2016, he might have. But that was a good time to be watching for me, because I heard of TNA, but I was the WB only guy, so TNA kind of opened my eye to, I wouldn't say opened my eye to New Japan, because I had already watched some New Japan matches. But as far as global stuff, I mean, it opened my eye to the types of wrestling, the forms of wrestling besides WB. But anyway, Bill over. So we got, so TNA is thriving, especially with Kurt Angle. That's where a bit of drama comes in. Because Kurt Angle is being paid $1 million a year. Which, Kia Thomas was her name. She's Awesome Kong. She also paid Thomas for a cup of coffee in WB. I don't remember why she wasn't used more in WB. I think they had bad knees or miscarriage. I don't know if that was a storyline or anything. But if it wasn't a storyline, I don't mean to sound flippant about it. That's awful. I just didn't know which was storyline and what wasn't. But anyway, some drama unfolds because TNA, Kurt Angle is making $1 million a year. He's the highest paid TNA star. He's actually de facto leader of the locker room, as he should be. And Kia Thomas agrees. He agrees, Kurt Angle definitely should have been paid more than $1 million a year, in my opinion. But can you not tell me, this is Kia talking, can you not tell me that I'm worth 1/10 of what Kurt Angle is? So I approach TNA management and say, as you break it down, I make yes, then a manager at McDonald's. So they unfortunately what they claim is they can't pay Kia. I mean, they don't dispute any of our talking points, but they can't pair, which is just sort of insane. I mean, you think because Jeff Jarrett knew Bob, you think they could have approached Bob together and said, hey, this is what your dollars are making. I mean, it's a bit disrespectful. You can afford to pay us more, so maybe you're gonna pay us more. So, Dixie was just a figurehead, basically, for the company. We get into this whole drama with Jeff Jarrett and Karen Angle. And Karen Angle, and according to the episode anyway, Karen Angle and Gus marriage has been on the rocks for a while. So, Jeff Jarrett kind of steps in after the separation. Jeff Jarrett kind of steps in and helps raise the kids and helps Karen helps raise his kids. I misspoke. Karen helps raise his kids because Jeff has 3 kids at this point. So Karen and Jeff kind of find each other and step into each other's lives. And from there, because Dixie had been looking for a reason, Dixie had been looking for an opportunity to get Jeff out of the company. And what better reason is there than a yet affair? So, so Dixie hears about Karen and Jeff's relationship. So she uses that kind of a power play to kind of muscle Jeff out to become the sole president and the sole contributor and sole boss of TNA, of Impact at the time. I may do that sporadically, but I'm going to try to keep the name straight as I can. So Dixie gets Jeff out, and this is a good judging point. It wasn't even a month later that Dixie calls Jeff Jarrett up and says, hey, can you help me get Hogan? And we all know how that went, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Can you help me get Hogan? And Jeff believes that Dixie is going to bring him back. Not only to get Hogan, but Dixie's going to bring him back into the fold, back into the company. So they meet with Hulk Hogan, and Yohan Bo, Eric Bischoff is there, and Jeff knows like right off the bat that Hulk Hogan does not know anything about TNA. Does not. No, they were still TNA at the time, actually. They were still TNA at the time. They weren't Impact yet. So, Jeff Jarrett knows right off the bat that Hulk Hogan does not know anything, nor does he care really about TNA. But Jeff just figures if Hogan can be an ambassador with the star power and his presence, if he can be an ambassador for TNA, like that'd be great. That'd maybe take us to the next level. So Dixie gets Hogan, and Dixie gets Jeff out of the company, out the right the way. So we pick up with part 3. Dark Side of the Ring part 3. And where Dixie's introducing Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan introduces us to new business partner, Dixie Carter. And there's this, I say Raw Rock Beach, but it's not really a Raw Rock Beach, and it's an ultimatum beach. Dixie has the locker room gathered, and Dixie says, and TNA management or whatever says, there's gonna be cameras everywhere. So we get Kid Thomas again, and we kind of have to put our face on because there's gonna be cameras. There's gonna be cameras everywhere. Dixie gives her roster an ultimatum, basically. I understand that some people don't like what I'm doing, but I expect you to fall in line, basically, because if you don't fall in line, if you keep asking for pay raise or keep asking for all the stuff, then you're out of here. And that was the roster. I don't know about every member of the roster, but it soured most of the roster on her, as you would think it would. Because according to Kia, and I agree with that too, which she doesn't need me to agree with something, I'm just saying, according to Kia, they're not asking for anything that they've not earned. And for her to reprimand them, I mean, it just exposed who they were working for. It turned out to be a complete disaster. I mean, it was Bischoff's idea to go one-on-one with Raw on Mondays, and it did well. Maybe that first Monday, that second Monday, it did well. It did for them, for the ratings wise. But that is not a long-term strategy. And I don't know if, I wouldn't say that I believe this. But Eric Bischoff says, oh, I knew it wouldn't yet. I knew it wouldn't yet. I knew it would work. Then why do it anyway? I mean, I understand for the novelty and everything, but why do it anyway? I mean, you get all of these people beforehand. They're going one-on-one with Raw. They're saying basically they're gonna look rinky-dink. They're gonna look second best. They don't have the capital. They don't have the money to compete with Raw. Production who spends more money on pyro than they do on production, than they do for the whole show. So they knew that was going to be a disaster. Eric Bischoff supposedly knew this wasn't going to work, if he knew this wasn't going to work, then why do it anyway? Why put your talent in, why put him in this position? But, yeah, this episode makes it clear. I didn't have a very good opinion of Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan's Hulk Hogan. But I didn't have a very good opinion of Eric Bischoff going in. If you didn't have a good opinion of Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan going in, you're not going to have a good opinion going out. I mean, this isn't going to change. This isn't going to change your thinking on it. But Jeff Jarrett hits, Jeff Jarrett gets termination papers and basically he hits rock bottom. He hits rock bottom, just going to the bottle and everything, but, that comes, yeah, and I forgot. You remember you remember that angle that Dick's, well, not angle. You remember that yet the affair that Dixie Carter got Jeff Jarrett fired for? Well, Vince Russo, because Vince Russo writes for TNA at the time too. So Vince Russo brings Jeff Jarrett an idea of Jeff Jarrett stealing Karen Angle. Jeff Jarrett stealing Kurt Angle's wife. He's and apparently they didn't wait to get approval from Jeff or Karen. They got approval from Dixie Carter. So this heinous act that got Jeff Jarrett fired from the company is now going to be a storyline on TNA. I think the biggest storyline they had. The problem is it worked too well. I didn't know the full story of Karen Angle and Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle before the documentary. I thought like the story I said, I thought Jeff Jarrett had stolen Karen Angle from Kurt Angle. So I was miffed at that, but we got our ducks in a row now as far as the episode says anyway. Jeff Jarrett, it's not, Dixie Carter's on the sinking ship. So Anthem Force comes in and buys TNA, because Bob Carter's getting, fed up with the money that he and his wife sunk into the company, and not receiving any good return on it. So Anthem Force comes in, Anthem Force picks up TNA. Jeff Jarrett leaves for Triple A. Jeff Jarrett was sold a bag of rotten goods. He was sold a bag of ice, basically. So Jeff Jarrett is terminated again. Jeff Jarrett goes to TBI at the time. And at the time, Jeff Jarrett drinking is really bad. He has some corner rules that he breaks. Some corner rule that he won't drink until he knows the match is over. He won't drink until he knows the job is done. So he breaks those corner rules. He goes to AAA and he throws a bunch of tortillas, throws a bunch of stereotypes at the Mexican fan there. So after Jeff inebriated throwing, Dixie, the Anthem Sports people, they come in, they sort of distance themselves. They're gonna sort of distance themselves from Jeff. So after that, Jeff hits rock bottom. Go before this. I didn't really talk about before, did I? So the reason this happened is TNA has another branch. TNA has another branch of the promotion. I can't remember what they said it was called, but Jeff Jarrett took a break so to focus on that. Well, after the inebriated stage, they the people from Anthem come and distance themselves from Jeff a little bit. And it's from there that Jeff Jarrett drinking gets really bad. So Karen, they're married at this point. Karen comes in a detective, Jeff, what are you gonna do? And Jeff just says, I'm going to rehab. I'm going to get better. So Karen gets on the phone with WB. They fly him out to do a wellness program, and it took this time because he tried to get into rehab before, but he fell off the wagon almost as soon as he got out. But this time it took. So we get Jeff Jarrett. We get Jeff Jarrett going into the WB Hall of Fame. Some management from WB called them up and asked if he would want to go into the Hall of Fame. And Jeff obviously said yes. So they get him in the Hall of Fame. And after that, obviously Jeff Jarrett has mad with Ric Flair. I'm sort of getting a little bit here. I don't know why. But after that, Jeff Jarrett had Ric Flair. Yeah, it's Matt. He's a producer at WB, if I remember right. So we had Ric Flair, yeah, Matt, teaming with Andrade. Jeff Jarrett teaming with Jay Easel. So we get sorry, I thought I'd get that for some reason. But Jeff Jarrett then goes on sign with AW, and they make it a good point of saying without TNA, without the promotion, there would be no. I mean, I don't know how true this is, but that there would be no AEW. That there wouldn't be, because the appetite that TNA had for an alternative transferred over to AEW, you could say. So that was the Jeff Jarrett story. It didn't go as well as I talking about it. Didn't go as well as I thought it would. I think I would have done better just talking about each part individually. But anyway, thank all for getting to my review. I'll be back. I'll be back Wednesday with a new review of Dark Side of the Ring. This I didn't want to see this. I just accidentally saw this on the YouTube promo. This coming Tuesday. Oh, also I gotta tell you, I don't have my TV anymore, but that's okay because I don't know if they did it. If they just did it for these 3 parts, I wouldn't think they did. But if you go on Vizient, ViTV, their website, at 9 o'clock, which it can be anywhere past 9 o'clock, and I'm just using 9 o'clock because that's when it starts. If you go there at 9 o'clock, you can watch the episode on ViTV on their website. So that made me happy too, so I could do that. I don't have ViTV anymore. This Tuesday at 9 o'clock, Negro Butcher versus Samoa Joe. Now, I haven't seen that match. I may look into that match before the episode comes to think of it. But I haven't seen that match, but as I understand, it got really nasty. I mean, it had to be for them to make a whole episode just on one match. So, guys, thank you for listening to my review. I'll be back hopefully one day with the new review. Take care.